Extended metaphor. Poetry analysis. Learning objectives. By the end of the lesson, students should understand what an extended metaphor is. Identify and analyze extended metaphors in poems. Interpret the meaning and effect of these metaphors. Warm-up. Read this short poem, then discuss with a partner. What two things are being compared in this extended metaphor? What mood or feeling does the metaphor create? Why do you think the poet chose this animal to describe the fog? Fog. By Carl Sandburg. The fog comes on little cat feet. It sits looking over harbor and city on silent haunches and then moves on. Defining metaphors. A metaphor is a figure of speech that describes something as if it was something else to highlight a similarity. Examples. Time is a thief. Her voice was music to his ears. Defining extended metaphors. An extended metaphor is a comparison between two unlike things that continues over several lines, a whole stanza, or even the entire poem. Instead of just one quick image, the metaphor is stretched and developed, creating layers of meaning. Why do poets use them? Poets use extended metaphors to deepen meaning, explore an idea in greater detail and make it more powerful or memorable, develop emotion, helps the reader feel the experience, not just understand it, building mood and connection, reveal complex ideas, make abstract or complicated concepts easier to visualize or relate to, for example, love, hope, fear, grief. Poem 1. A Poison Tree. By William Blake. Some context. The poet. William Blake was an English poet, artist, and visionary from the Romantic era, late 1700s, early 1800s. He was known for challenging traditional authority and exploring spiritual, emotional, and psychological themes. The poem, A Poison Tree, appears in his collection Songs of Experience, 1794, which contrasts with his earlier Songs of Innocence. Together they examine the dual nature of humanity. The period. The world Blake lived in was full of social and political change. During the Romantic period, poets often critiqued reason and logic, instead valuing emotion, imagination, and individual experience. A Poison Tree. By William Blake. I was angry with my friend, I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe, I told it not, my wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears, and I sunned it with smiles, and with soft deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night, till it bore an apple bright. And my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine. And into my garden stole, when the night had veiled the pole, in the morning glad I see, my foe outstretched beneath the tree. First reading. Read through the poem once. Then, discuss with a partner. What is the poem about? How does the poet use extended metaphor? What is being compared? How does the poem make you feel? Why? Are there any words you don't understand? Look them up. Second reading. Now, let's dig a little deeper. Answer the following questions in your notebooks. 1. The poem uses the metaphor of a tree to represent anger. How does Blake develop this metaphor throughout the poem? 2. Identify words or phrases that show how the speaker nurtures their anger. What effect do these words have? 3. How does the poem's structure, 4 quatrains, rhyme scheme, contribute to the mood or message? 4. How is the apple used symbolically in the poem? What might it represent and how does it relate to the extended metaphor? 5. How does Blake use contrast between the speaker's two attitudes toward anger, expressed versus suppressed? 6. What role does imagery play in helping you understand the emotions in the poem? Give examples. 7. Discuss the tone of the poem. How does it change from the beginning to the end? 8. What message do you think Blake is trying to convey about anger and its consequences? Consider how it might reflect ideas from Blake's time, such as morality or human nature. Poem 2. Hope is the Thing with Feathers. By Emily Dickinson. Some context. The poet, Emily Dickinson, 1830 to 1886, was an influential American poet known for her unconventional style and introspective writing. She lived much of her life in Amherst, Massachusetts in relative seclusion and wrote nearly 1,800 poems. The poem, Hope is the Thing with Feathers, is one of Dickinson's most well-known poems. It was first published posthumously in 1891, several years after her death, in a collection titled Poems by Emily Dickinson. The period Dickinson wrote during the mid-19th century, a period influenced by Romanticism and Transcendentalism. Poets of this time often focused on nature, individual experience, and exploring emotions in innovative ways. Hope is the Thing with Feathers. By Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers, that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words, and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm, that could abash the little bird, that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land, and on the strangest sea, yet, never in extremity, it asked a crumb of me. First reading. Read through the poem once. Then, discuss with a partner. What is the poem about? How does the poet use extended metaphor? What is being compared? How does the poem make you feel? Why? Are there any words you don't understand? Look them up. Second reading. Now, let's dig a little deeper. Answer the following questions in your notebooks. 1. The poem uses the metaphor of a bird to represent hope. How does Dickinson develop this metaphor throughout the poem? 2. What imagery does Dickinson use to help you picture hope? Give examples from the poem. 3. How does the poem's structure and rhyme scheme contribute to its tone and mood? 4. How is the storm used symbolically in the poem? What might it represent and how does it relate to the extended metaphor? 5. Why do you think Dickinson describes hope indirectly, through images and actions, rather than defining it clearly? 6. What feelings and ideas does the poem evoke for you? How do the metaphor and imagery help create this response? Writing challenge. Your task. Write 4 to 8 lines of a poem that uses an extended metaphor to describe an emotion, for example, anger, love, fear. A journey. A person, for example, teacher, parent, friend. Some example prompts. My sadness is a storm cloud that. Friendship is a bridge that. Wrap up and reflection. Complete the following questions as your exit ticket. 1. What is an extended metaphor and why do poets use it? 2. Which poem or metaphor stuck with you most? Why? Works cited. Sandburg, Carl. Fogg. Chicago Poems, Henry Holt and Company, 1916. Blake, William. A Poison Tree. Songs of Experience, 1794. Hope is the Thing with Feathers. Poems by Emily Dickinson, edited by Mabel Loomis Todd and Thomas Wentworth Higginson, Roberts Brothers, 1891. Thank you for listening.